Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Do you want massive momentum, major money, and magnetic millionaire energy in your business and bank account? If you had an expert you trusted lay out a proven strategy for you, step by step, to get you to consistent $20,000 to $50,000 months without burning yourself out, would you do it? And this, my loves, is why I created the brand new, ultra exclusive ProjectME with Tiffany Carter Mastermind Live Experience 2021. Picture 2 days with my crazy ass hanging out at a multi-million-dollar oceanfront beach house, mapping out exactly how you will get to your next big income goal with absolute clarity. There will be VIP beach photo shoots, a sunset abundance cocktail hour, plus other luxuriating surprises. Now, this is strictly by application only, as I will be hand selecting 15 of you who I feel are the perfect fit for this mastermind experience and will get a significant return on investment from attending. For all the details and pricing and to apply, go to projectmewithtiffany.com/mastermind. projectmewithtiffany.com/mastermind. The link is also in my bio on Instagram at projectmewithtiffany. And of course, you can DM me with any questions if you aren't 100% sure if this is the right fit for you right now. Welcome to ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, the podcast and posse. I'm your host, Tiffany, and today is something that you guys have been wanting, but you're going to need to listen to the part one. So many of you have loved the episode that I did with Rob Murgatroyd. And if you haven't listened to it, I'll make sure the episode is linked in the show notes so you can go back and listen. Even if you've already listened, you need to re-listen again so you can swipe up to get to that episode. Of course, I don't know the number off the top of my head. None of us are surprised by this. But in that episode, Rob and I were really focused on talking about when you have a dream, when you have something you want to do, that's all fun and games. But to actually bring it into reality, which is what 99% of people don't do, right? There is a process, there's an emotional process, a mindset process, actual tangible process. And what Rob and his wife, Kim, have done in moving their family to Florence, Italy from California with a young daughter. I mean, I don't know anyone who's done something like this. And maybe you don't have a desire to move to Europe. Maybe your desire is to move states, change careers, work for yourself, have the option to do it because that's fun, right? That's what money gives us, is the option to do a lot of things. So we heard from Rob, but we need to hear from the woman in the relationship. We need to hear from the mom, from the wife. Like, how is Kim managing all this shit and dealing with Rob's Virgo ass? You know what I'm saying? So Kim Murgatroyd is here. Her specialty is helping people create a financial foundation so that you have the options. Maybe you want to stay at home with your kid. Maybe you want to have these, you want to have a beach house somewhere for your family and create those memories. She helps you create those options that allow you to have the freedom to breathe and to do the things that you want in your life. Because, you know, a lot of us want that, right? I wanted it too. I didn't know how to get it. This is not a class in school, which it should be. And thank God there's people out there like him teaching people how to do it so you don't have to guess. And I think that's what a lot of people really come up with, don't you think, Kim? Where it's like, okay, I want this dream. Like, I want to move to Europe, or I want to be able to make $10,000 a month. I want to be able to quit my job. and then they get stuck, the word stuck, and it's like, I don't even know where the hell to start. Is that what you hear most of the time?
Yeah. And I also hear, what I hear more than anything is that they want all this kind of stuff that's arbitrary, that they've sort of like grabbed out of magazines, right? Like people have vision board parties and they get a bunch of magazines. If they, I don't, do they exist anymore?
I mean, I subscribe to People. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So they get a bunch of magazines and they grab some chick's body and they slap it on the vision board. And then they take this and that and these words, but they really don't have a vision. And I think that's where it has to start. And for me, Rob and I used to make vision boards like that. We actually made vision books and we made vision boards, and the boards we found, we always stuck in a closet because we were embarrassed by them. They would slide behind the dresser or they'd be in the bathroom, and then it would like wilt from the heat of the steam.
Okay, now I'm embarrassed because I have one in my bathroom, and that's what's happening.
Right. And so, but this is the thing, because I'm going to tell you what we did, where every time we created this arbitrary vision board of a magazine that I hoped had a kitchen I liked or a watch he liked or a this or a that, and stuck it somewhere that I was going to see every day. I'm putting that in quotes, right? I'm going to see this every day in my closet. I'm going to see this every day in my bathroom. But what we found we were actually really doing was we were trying to find a place that we wouldn't be embarrassed if someone came over and saw our vision board. And so there's a part of you that's not all in on that. And you're stopping yourself from fully going all in to make it a reality. So what happens? You forget what's on the vision board. Like if I asked most people when they made a vision board, what's on it, if you're not looking at it, they can't tell you because they forgot and they pulled shit out of a magazine, right? So when Rob and I got really serious about, we lived in Atlanta and we were moving to California, or we wanted to move to California. He was a chiropractor. And I, if you wind it back like 6 years, he was a chiropractor. I was pregnant with Sophia, just had a baby, whatever. And we got the bug to get him out of chiropractic. I did want to stay home with my kid. So we started a business in network marketing. Now, preceding that, we had a 10-year run in a company called Jet Set Life that we made travel videos, and we produced 20 travel shows and did digital guidebooks before social media existed. Okay. So I'm just giving a little framework. Before that started in 2006, we had podcasts, we had all this stuff.
Really? I didn't know this about you guys. Interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So we read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. And we said, okay, that was super inspirational. What do we do? So we sat down and we created a dream line, and this will tie back into the vision boards, but we created a dream line, and that was a reference he had in the book. So what do you want to have, be, and do? Okay. Very specific. What do you want to have, be, and do? Not what do you want to open a magazine and hope you find to put on your vision board? Like specifically, what do you want to have, be, and do? How much is that going to cost? So something like, I want to be an author. Well, that doesn't cost you anything except time, right? So there's a money associated and there's a time commitment. So you make this list. So Rob and I made these lists separately. And we got a bottle of wine and did this, looked at it. And mine was like, I want to live in Italy. And his was like, I want to live in California. And we were like, well, that's interesting because we're married. So how do we do that? And then we decided we were going to go 50-50 and have a vision that we would live half the year in California, half the year in Italy. Great. So, and then other things. And we created a vision around those things. And we have redone this process over and over and over. So at that time, we had the amount that we would need to create our goal. And eventually we did a dream line together. So we were on the same page. And we said, okay, we want to do this and create an automated income that we can work and travel from everywhere. So we created a company called Jet Set Life. We love to travel. We did it all the time. People always asked us, okay, I'm going to Mykonos. Can I get a list? I'm going to Capri. Can I get a list? And so we created something called the secret list. So it wasn't an 80,000-page guidebook. It was a short list of, if you called me and said, I'm going here, what should I do? Where should I eat? Where should I go? I would just give you a short list, right? So we created that, but we created a digital download before people were ready for a digital download. So we didn't sell that many is the short answer.
You were like too early to market.
Too early. It was crazy. And so we really focused on building this company, which when you look at this company in the 10-year run, in the 20 travel shows that we produced, if you Google it, it's funny. Okay. So like the camera equipment literally was in my purse. It was like 1 pixel. So it looks like there's Vaseline smeared on it because it's 10 years ago. We didn't have a camera phone. There was no Instagram. Like it didn't exist. And we did this and we built a YouTube channel with almost 3 million views.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it was just on those videos. Like if you go to our, in the show notes, I'm sure you're going to link up to our YouTube because we're kind of reviving that. But you'll see videos from 10, 12 years ago that have 100,000 views. And that's a lot 10, 12 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
It's like, a lot now.
If you put it in dog years, but it's, so that was our initial run. And we really wanted this to be the way that Rob got out of chiropractic. We really wanted this to be our location independent income. And we created multiple products in multiple areas through Jet Set Life. And none of it made enough money to retire him consistently because things online change every 6 seconds, right? Algorithms change. At the time we were blogging, so we had keyword research, SEO, all of these things. And it was new. It was the wild, wild west. We were going to Yannick Silver events in 2007, 2008, meeting people like Lewis Howes which at the time was doing the LinkedIn thing. Like that's how far back we're going. Okay. That's where our connections came from with a lot of this. And so although this company didn't make money, it was a passion project and there were insane lessons learned. And from that company, we created relationships with so many people that if I told you the people that came out of Jet Set Life that I know we both know, you would be like, how is this even happen? Like, how did you know these things, right? Or meet these people? And Jet Set Life gave us experience. It gave us relationships. It taught us how hard it is to break into the online world. And it really gave us a foundation of what we wanted and connections we would later use. We didn't know what we were going to do, but we knew we needed to do something. So we had this run. I got pregnant. I was like, well, it's going to be hard to spray champagne with a baby. So we might have and hold all the camera equipment and all these things. So we just paused everything. It wasn't making money. It was a big undertaking. And so was having a baby. So we decided to go with the baby. That's when we decided, okay, well, we watched our friends make a bunch of money in network marketing. We've said no for 3 years, but we tried the products, loved them. Okay, we're going to jump into that to create this product. So what's great about network marketing is you don't actually have to manufacture a product. You don't have to do all of the customer support, the shipping and stocking it and all that crap, right? You don't have to buy product and then resell it. And it's kind of turnkey for the right person. And so we jumped into that, built a great financial foundation with that. From that, Rob was able to then retire, which I'm sure you guys talked about this, was able to retire from chiropractic. We pulled the plug and we created the vision. So back to vision boards. When we were able to create the first vision board, here's what we did different. We didn't open magazines. We specifically said, what do we want? And at the time, it was October 2018. We played Stupid Idea Time. Stupid Idea Time is our little game we play that's blue sky thinking you can do anything in the world and the other person can't call it stupid. So we created our dream line and we said, we want to move to California by next September. It was just like, we didn't know how. We still had a clinic. We still had all these things. We played this game. That commitment started the next vision. So we said, okay, we've made a vision board that was joint around one goal, move to California. We found specific pictures that moved us and we had already been here. So a lot of them were ours. We want to have coffee in that cafe. I want to go to that yoga studio. This will be Sophia's school. That's what we want for all the different areas of our life that are daily, right? So we put it not in the bathroom, not in the closet. We put it in the middle of our kitchen. And so any person that came over was like, what's this? And we had a date on it and it said, move to Hermosa Beach. We had a date on it. And every person that walked in, from the maintenance guy to a package delivery guy to our friends, we had to explain it to them because they always asked. And so in that explanation and in that conversation, that's where the belief was built that we were actually going to make that happen. every night we'd sit with a glass of wine and look at that vision board on the wall and talk about it and say, what will it be like to wake up in the morning? Let's talk about what our day would look like. Let's envision this, right? We don't have to go to the office. We just are home. What does that look like? We're going to drop Sophie off at school. We're going to walk her together every single morning because we can do that. And then we're going to go together and have coffee and just start our day by connecting. And so we would talk about this every day. We didn't have a plane ticket. We still had a clinic. We didn't but we talked about it and we talked it into existence. And so that's the difference between having a vision board that's stuck in your bathroom versus one that's front and center, that is getting conversation. And that's what manifesting is, right? It's literally acting as if it's happening now. And that's what we did with our vision board. And so when we got here and, we made this decision to move to Italy, we created another one. I'm looking at it right now.
I know. Rob showed me that one. And Here you're saying you talked it into existence, but you felt it into existence.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And that is the key. And now I need to go redo my vision boards that are in this one bathroom. I don't mind that they're in the bathroom because it is something I see every day, but I love what you're saying is don't just mindlessly cut out pictures that you have no emotional connection to.
Mm-hmm. Or just put a random number on the wall. Like, I want to make $1 million. Okay, but for what? Like, it gives you options. What are you doing? Like, people make arbitrary things. And like, when I work with people in my company, they come in, I'm like, okay, how much money do you want to make? And like, don't tell me $1 million. We all want $1 million. But like, what's the first number that would change your life? Why would it change your life? You have to start there, because when you put this, like, I'm going to make $10 million on the wall, that's awesome. But why are you doing that? Money is not emotional. What is the money giving you? That's the emotional thing. That's what you connect to. So for me, look, moving to Italy or California or any of the things we've done, this requires income. It requires a lot of things.
It requires time, energy,
all of it,
attention to detail.
But if the vision is the thing that truly lights your soul on fire, you will move mountains to get there. If it's not, and it's some random thing you picked out of a magazine, you're not moving anything to get there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the thing that's going to pull you. If it means something to you, it will. And so for me, I think if you have a spouse, getting into complete alignment together in a joint vision is important. And if you don't, then it's you, but then you need to start talking that into existence and taking action on it. And so when we did that first California one, you said it, you felt it. Well, we put that vision board up, I'm going to tell you, in October of 2018. By the end of November, I went to a yoga class, and towards the end, I broke down crying in Savasana. And I'm very connected in myself, right? Yoga, I wasn't like that before, but yoga made me very mind-body connected. And I, in my heart, knew in that moment that we could not do one more year owning a clinic. And I didn't know how we were going to do it. I was doing well in my network marketing company, but I was only a couple of years in. So like, I hadn't ridden roller coasters and the wave that it goes, right? So that being our only financial security was scary, and at that time we were living on both incomes, right? So the clinic and the network marketing. So it was going to be a big dip, but I knew in my heart we couldn't do another year. And I knew in my head we only had 30 days. And so I went home and I was red with tears streaming down my face. And I said, Rob, you're not going to be in that clinic in January 1. I don't care if we have to close it, sell it, or give it away. I will not watch you wither away emotionally, physically, and mentally hate this any longer. We are making that vision happen. And he cried. He listened to Landslide, and all the words meant something to him.
I love Rob.
I know. He's amazing. By the way, he's currently re-listening to Landslide because big shifts in life, for some reason, the words for that song are just part of it. But we made this decision, and we were resolute. We used Tony Robbins' decision-making process, which is phenomenal for anyone that needs to make a decision. And we got the pros, the cons, we mitigated the cons. We wrote out all the ideas. And we said, in 30 days, we're done. And we had 3 options, right? We made it happen. We ended up selling the clinic. And then on January 1, like, he had nothing to do. So that's when he got to move back into podcasting and all the things that he was going to move forward in. But that putting that on the wall and talking about it every day is what created the momentum for us to begin really making decisions and having the lady balls to stand up and say, not another day, right? And I'm not saying everyone should quit their job if they hate it, but you have to have vision for where you're going and resolve on what you're going to do. So I hope that made sense, but that's
no, it's great. And I can attest to their journey. This isn't like she's just glossing over, some highlights. Like, it's not like as simple as, oh, okay, it's 30 days. Like, you had to have the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
You had to follow through when you were exhausted and you guys didn't feel like it. You had to do it anyway. What do you think the reason is why so many people, which is the majority of people, they'll be buzzed on rosé and talk about their grand ideas, or they watch Shark Tank and they're like, I have an invention I can do. And then maybe they go a step further and do a little manifesting thing or a vision board, but they don't get into the action of it. What do you think that disconnect is?
Fear of the unknown, fear of failure. I mean, it's rarely, I don't know what to do. And if someone says that, there's really something stopping figuring it out, because there's an answer to pretty much everything, right? Like, if you have a product you want to create, there's someone that's created a product. If you have a course you want to create, there's someone that's created a course. Like, there is guidance in almost everything. And unless you're like Elon Musk and you're a trailblazer, then you're going to just go by your own propulsion, right? So I think that fear of failure is a really big one. Fear of the unknown is huge. Rob had a fear of the unknown. Virgo likes order,
exactly.
consistency, checklists,
yes,
all of that. Aquarius over here. Like, I just like to do everything. Like, I like to actually find new ways of getting places because it's fun for me. He's like, but if we already have a solid route, why would we do that?
Exactly. Thank you, Rob.
but I have this bigger vision for figuring stuff out. So I like the unknown. I get excited about the unknown. So I think someone like Rob, who was terrified of the unknown, initially when we met, he had to adopt my mindset a little bit of, what if this actually worked out? What if it was better than you thought? What if it was actually exciting? And what's actually the worst case scenario? Like, I remember one year he liked to do this circuit when we first started dating. It was just like 100 years ago. And he would go to Italy. That was his international place. And then he'd do New York, LA, Miami, but nothing else. Like, that was all he did. And I came in, I was like, I have an idea. Instead of keep doing this New York, LA, Miami thing every month, why don't we go to Rio de Janeiro? He was like, I don't even know what that would mean. And like, his brain fried for a second and smoke came out. But I pushed him to try something new. And that's when we got triggered to create Jet Set Life. That's a whole nother thing. But he was so scared of the unknown, but then it was amazing. And we actually built a business out of it, that those connections we made in both the travel industry and in friendships have pulled us through so many other parts of our life, So fearing the unknown for me, I think, is a big one that people have. They don't know what's on the other side. And if you can start to welcome the unknown, because that's where growth happens, right? Everyone talks about, I'm going to up level. I'm going to up level. I'm going to up level. One more damn quote about I'm going to up level, right? But what are you actually doing to up level? Because if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, you're not growing and nothing is up. You're not up leveling shit. Right?
Absolutely. I am uncomfortable every day. What I've gotten is I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right. Exactly. And so, and how do you build that muscle? Well, the same way you go to the gym. You go to the gym and the first time you go, it sucks. And you're so sore you can't even sit on the toilet, right? Great. But then the next time and the next time, that gets less and less. And so you build that muscle of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So once you tap into that, then when you have fear of the unknown, I have this big business idea, or I want to make a shift, or I want to do this, or I want to ask that guy out, or whatever it is, then you have something you can tap into and go, oh, this is growth. I'm not going to identify this as fear anymore, because that's going to send me into anxiety and panic and in the negative spiral that allows me to do nothing. It's basically, I'm going to put the sheets over my head and hide. Instead of calling it fear, let me say, this is a zone that I'm uncomfortable in, but I am going to take action on it because I want to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And so taking that action toward it, that's where the work is. Everybody talks about, you got to do the work. Well, that's the work. Like, the work hurts. The work is not comfortable.
It's not cute. Sometimes it looks cute. Most of the time it's not cute. If your actions are not aligned with what you're saying you want, it ain't going to happen.
Absolutely. Like, there are people in my network marketing company that are in like the top 20. That's not going to be me. Do you know why? Because I don't want to do the actions that they do to get in the top 20. And I'm honest about that. I love making a multi-six-figure income, and I'm good there. If something were to happen that got me there, but I'm not going to be doing the things that they did to get there. And I think it's know thyself, right? Not everybody has to go to the top of everything. Not everybody has to make a gazillion dollars. Not like, know what you want and how you're going to get there, right? And so I think having that understanding and that worth, so you can say, okay, this is what I want, what you just said. These are the actions I need to take to get this. And it's okay. Not everybody has to go full throttle all the time, right? So aligning your actions with your vision, but you have to have a vision you actually want, right? So I think fear of the unknown is one. And then I think adopting some sort of a motto or something that means something to you. So for me, I listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks, love Abraham Hicks. And in the last 2 years, I adopted everything is always working out for me. Rob and I have. And when we first started it, it was like, in the middle of a pandemic. So things would happen and we'd look at each other and say, everything is always working out for me. And it was hard to believe it initially. But as we kept flexing that muscle and using that, and we saw that things truly unfolded and everything truly was working out for us, even the shitty stuff, it worked out. So for us in the pandemic, all of the pandemic stuff aside, we needed that 2 years to pull the trigger to move to Italy. And so without that, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. It wasn't because of the pandemic. It just gave us a moment to pause, reflect, and make decisions that are in the best interest of our family. And so although I loved being locked down for, 18 months in California. It was super fun, but it gave us the time to pause, reflect, and make the next decision, which is the right decision. And the moment we had the resolve on that decision, then every door started to open, which was unbelievable. Like, we kept watching, like, oh, that door opened. Oh, that door opened. Oh, we had a problem there. That door opened. Things just started to show up in our life to bring us to the next goal.
When you have a moment or a day where you're losing your shit during this process of all the planning, the logistics, you have a child. It's not just you and Rob. I mean, that would be a lot by itself, right? You have a child, a young child, so doing all of the logistics, the selling stuff, the checklist, the passports, all the crap. Everything. When you lose your mind, when you've had enough, or when you start going into fear, we heard what Rob's fears are. What are yours? Where do you go?
I am very logical, is the thing. So I'm a logical, planned strategy. My number one strength is strategy. And I strategically create a plan that allows me to not go into overwhelm and fear. So we had this, what was it, like April, May, we made a decision to move to Italy.
Yeah.
In 3 months. Then we already had Rob's Work Hard, Play Hard experience in Mykonos. And then we were spending a month in Mykonos between basically the month of July. So mid-June to mid-July. So we basically made a decision. We're moving to Italy at the end of August. Oh, by the way, you're going to be gone for a month in the middle of it in Europe. And when you get back and you actually land, you have 30 days to pack up your house, sell, throw away, sort, and everything, and let your kid have a good summer. Okay. So I had 30 days. So every day I just strategically, because I used my strength, which is strategy, I made a strategy of every day what I was going to do. And I went room by room and I created a literal store in my garage for selling things. And for 2 weeks, it looked like, it literally looked like walking into a storefront. Like I had shelving, it was crazy. I'm organized. But I created a strategy to sell everything. And then once I shut the store down and everything was sold, then it went into packing mode. And now I'm finishing up packing because tomorrow our older daughter comes and takes all our furniture and goes to San Diego with it because now it's hers. And so for me, I'm not triggered by fear in the same way that Rob is because we're different. I use my strengths like every day. I know what my weaknesses are. Okay.
Which are what? Now we need to know because you sound like the Holy Grail and I need to be a lesbian immediately.
No, Rob could be into that. My biggest weakness is like kumbaya. Like I don't care if people are all getting along. I like ruffling feathers is not important to me. And so it could be a strength, right? I can't remember the exact name on my strength finder, what this one is, but it's literally the last one. And so for me, I walk around like a crazy person. I'm like, Rob, listen, I can't fit this. We're going to have to throw it out. And like, he's like, oh my God, emotional. Like I love that thing or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, it's not going to fit. So that's my weakness. My weakness is that I am so logical and non-emotional in a lot of ways that I am a little bit harsh with how things are said. And like when I go to send a text, I have to write the text and then I have to go back and put, hi, how are you? Like I have to put the nice stuff. But again, it's know thyself, right? Like someone can look and go, well, she's a bitch or whatever. But no, I actually just know this about myself. And so I have to preface, like I have to go back and figure it out and add the things that don't make me rude, if I haven't talked to you in 15 years. But those things are my weaknesses. Like if you've taken Strength Finder.
No, I haven't.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So you have to take the Strength Finder. Rob and I did this, and anyone that has a relationship, this is helpful. So I do it in my network marketing team, but I also did it with Rob and I, and we took the Strength Finder. It lists 34 strengths. Okay. In order. So you take this test and it gives you that your top 10 or your top 10. A couple of them might shift around. You might be able to move some up the strength list or whatever, but they're the things you're strong at. After 10, we should probably not worry too much about them. Like there's a strength, woo, what others think, right? It's winning others over, woo. I don't have that. That's so low on my list. Like if I go to a party, my job is not to win people over. Like I'm not that person, but one of my best friends, that's her number one. And so when it comes to connecting with people in person, she's incredible because woo is her number one. But when it comes to like posting on social media or something, because she cares so much about what others think, and it's hard to win people over on social media without checking likes all the time, it becomes a weakness. And so every strength has a blind spot. And so you can once you take the test, it's Gallup Strength Finder. Once you take the test, they give you a printout or you can get a book. And Rob and I went to brunch every Sunday for like 2 months. And we read one of each other's strengths and the blind spots of that strength. And it was like, it was so accurate. And we would like have mimosas and just die laughing. Because once you realize that the things that make Rob are not changing and that it's the flip side of the coin. So something I love about him can also drive me completely insane, right? But I also love the other part of that coin. And so once you see it for what it is, then there's no, like, what are you going to do? Change him? Like, that's not, he's
Right.
not
And if you
changing.
change that thing you don't like, you would lose the part of that thing that
Right.
you do like.
And so there becomes an acceptance of it, right? And so in the strength, like Rob's strengths are so good, and we have very different strengths. He is a connector, and he's like a big picture thinker, and he's also incredibly organized and stuff like that. But strategy is not his strength. Like he will take, and it will drive me crazy because he will take the long ass way somewhere, and I'm like, oh my God, because strategy is my strength. I'm like, I know the shortcut. And so we've learned to default to each other's strengths. And so when we're in situations like packing and stuff like that, I have to pack up a house. We're shipping stuff with Send My Bag. You can't put certain things in those bags on. Like when you have carry on, some things have to go on. Like this needs a strategy brain. He doesn't try. And so I'm not mad at him for not packing. Like people have said to me how he's not really helping pack. Like, how is that not killing you? I'm like, well, it would actually kill me if he helped me pack, because I'd have to repack everything, not because I'm controlling, but because strategy is not his strength. And so we lean on each other for each other's strengths in these areas of whatever we're doing in our life, which makes our life much more efficient and effective. Like you want an organized, incredible, badass trip. That's Rob. That's why people invite themselves literally on our vacation. That's how he created these work hard, play hard experiences, because so many people were inviting themselves on vacation with us. And we were like, hold on a second. We got to put
and the
together.
curation, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys would be my go-to for anywhere. And I'm a great researcher, but I know that you guys have put the stamp on it already.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like, yeah. And well, that's Rob, not me. So Rob does that. That's his strength. I'm horrible at this. I'd be like, I'll find a dinner restaurant. Like I'm the opposite. I'm the opposite. And so we work in tandem together. It's like we're truly one person. We always say this. We're like, really, we're one person, because I don't think either of us would make it where we are without each other's support. And instead of faulting each other, we kind of lean into each other. And so for me, this whole thing, it's not really about fear. My only fear is I'm not going to get this shit done in time, but I know I will, because it's when there's a deadline, it always happens. Right.
And you don't really have a choice.
In anything, I mean, at the end of the day, like Rob's like, I don't think I can fit everything in a bag. I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I'll buy another carry-on. Or I'm like, if I'm like, I don't think I'm going to fit all this shit, I'm like, I'll throw it out. Like, it's fine. We'll work it out. I know everything will work out. And I'm pretty confident in that. So I don't typically go into fear on stuff. That's not my lane. I don't really go into fear. I think I like the unknown.
It's almost like there's an excitement and an adrenaline thing for you. So what about people listening who are like, God, you guys have this like incredible partnership. You have this synergy, and I'm in a relationship where, getting my husband or getting my wife on board, it's not going to look like that, but I have these dreams that I want.
Mm-hmm.
What am I supposed to do? Do I just keep the focus on what I want and kind of drag or pull this person along?
No, God, no. So first, let me say that Rob and I, from the time we started dating, did an incredible amount of personal development, like a relationship development work, right? So we did, Tony Robbins had a relationship series he did with his wife, Sage, and a woman named Chloe Madonis. And we learned a lot about masculine, feminine energy and polarity, and how to coexist in both roles. There are days where I'm in my masculine because shit's got to get done. And then there are days that, and he doesn't fault me for it. He understands that part. And then there are days where he's more emotional and driven, like with emotion. And especially now, because California was, man, this is his dream, right? So he feels like he said the other day, he feels like he's getting like 1,000 paper cuts. Each little thing is not that bad, but when you add it all together, it's like death by paper cuts for him. He's excited about Italy, obviously, but this was his dream. So there's much more emotion. So I allow him to feel that and not like, suck it up, buttercup, not making each other wrong for where we are. So we did a lot of work on that. And we also did a lot of work on John Gottman. So if you've ever seen any of his books, he is amazing. He has a love lab in Seattle where he can predict divorce. And we did a lot of reading and work.
Scary.
It is, yeah. Well, it's like contempt and belittling your spouse, contempt, bids. Like bids are like touching, like you smack them on the butt or you look them in the eye or you touch them on the shoulder. All those things add up. And so we did a lot of work on understanding what makes a healthy relationship and seeing what each other wanted. And so I say those things because that's our foundation, right? So we have a foundation of tools that we use. And when you do these things, you can't unlearn them, right? You can't unlearn masculine, feminine when you see it. You can't unlearn knowing that there should be X number of bids to have a successful marriage. You can't unlearn a lot of these things. Contempt, like what gets contemptuous and the hot buttons, how you handle hot buttons. And so we have a rule that on a scale of, if we both are frustrated with something, but we have difference of opinion, it's kind of like whoever it's a 10 for wins. And so we might be fighting about something and he'll obviously it's a 10 for him and it's not really for me. So I back down and give it to him and he'll do the same. And so we have that as a foundation of our relationship. So we respect each other. We can influence each other, which is important in a relationship. And I don't mean that in a negative way or like a sneaky way, but we have influence over each other. And so getting on the same page for a vision is really important. And we operate on a place of what lights him up, lights me up, and what lights me up, lights him up. And that's how we live our relationship. And that's another Tony Robbins thing we learned. But I am invested in what he wants. So when he was like 45 and became a DJ.
Oh my God, I'm dying. I need video of this immediately.
Oh, he was Fit Radio DJ of the Year. I actually just found a card from his last gig he did. He did what's the one in Louisiana where the girls for the beads?
New Orleans.
Yeah. But what's that?
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras. Thank you.
Yeah.
He did Mardi Gras. That was his last gig, was Mardi Gras 2015.
Oh my God. Dying.
Yeah. He's amazing DJ. But when most women would be like, okay, so your husband randomly decides he wants to be a nightclub DJ.
What's happening
at 45,
here? Right.
Okay, midlife crisis. And so a lot of women would, and they told me, they were like, I would never let my husband, you're going to let him go to a club with all the 20-year-old girls hanging all on. I was like, are you kidding? I trust this man. When I would go to the club with him, girls would be trying to get in the DJ booth. And he's like, Kim, would you please push them out? And kiss me so they know. I'm like, no, I'm letting this happen. Like, I just sit back and eat popcorn and watch it go down. But my point of sharing that is that I allow him to be him. And if that's what lights him up, and that in music and in DJing and all of that lit him up for that 5-year period or whatever it was, I was there to support him every step of the way because he does the same for me. And so when we create a vision together, that's the point. So if you have a relationship where you're like, I'm just going to drag this guy along or whatever, gal along with me like a sack of potatoes, that's not honoring what lights them up. So if you sit down and say, okay, I have a vision that I would like to quit my job and move to a beachfront property, whatever. If your spouse doesn't have that vision, well, what's their vision? What do they want? Maybe where they live is not that important to them. Maybe they would tap into your vision, but they have something else they want to do too. And so creating a joint vision where you care almost more about what the other one wants than what you want, and you can create some alignment there. That's where the energy is really, once both people are entangled in the same vision, the energy is going to flow to that twice as fast than if you have resistance. And so it might not be like California was not my dream, but I was like, it's his. It's a 10 out of 10. I'll go. I'm
like,
okay.
You would have been fine hanging in Atlanta until you went to Italy. Like, no bigs.
Didn't matter. And like, we did this. So I told him, I said, look, you're getting California. So if we go back to where we said, not another day, we're selling the clinic, it's over. Then it was like, well, now we're not tied to Atlanta, so we can go anywhere. That means we can move to California. He was like, okay. He said, but before that, I'd like to do some time in Italy because that was your dream. And I was like, that's great. And so he created his experiences, work hard, play hard experiences. He had one booked in June in Monaco, and he had one booked in October in Italy. And so I said, why don't we do this? What if we just stayed in between? So we go to the first one, we stay in Europe, we do the second one, and we move to California. And I was like, that would be amazing for me. He said, I would love that. So he gave me the ability to plan 4 months traveling through Europe. And he said, I'm along for the ride, whatever you want to do. Cause I like the unknown. I get excited. So I made him go to Montenegro, random tiny little country. Did he tell you the Montenegro story?
No, but I'm familiar. I have a friend from there. I know how tiny it is.
Okay. So we did this experience in Monaco. And then after the experience in Monaco, we went to Mykonos. And, you know, if I back it up, we actually moved all of our stuff from Atlanta into a pod. Okay. So boxed everything, put it in a pod, left for Europe for 4 months, went to Monaco, did his event, went to Mykonos to blow off some steam and have some fun. And I knew we were going to need a reset. So I said, let's go to this random country, Montenegro. He's like, of all the places. I'm like, yep. And so I rented this yoga studio. It's called the Yoga Boca House. And if I ever needed to get off the grid, this is where I'd go. And it's up in this mountain on Couture Bay. And I love yoga. So for me, this was huge. And it was stunning. Like the view was mind blowing. And he was like, okay, so how long are we going there? I'm like, maybe a week. I didn't tell him, but we were there 3 weeks. And he thought he was going for 7 days, which was terrifying. But I knew he'd fight me on it. And as his wife, I knew he would need this period to recharge. And so we got there. We had 130 steps to get to the yoga studio. And by steps, that's exaggerating. They were like misplaced stones that go up to this yoga studio, okay, that you climb. And we had a 4-year-old. So one of us were like, oh, one of us is carrying this kid all the way up. We ended up not. She did it every day, no problem. You couldn't get luggage up it. They had this makeshift dolly that was electronic that you put your luggage on and it would go up. But Rob had to get the luggage up onto it. That was like an I Love Lucy episode in itself, because he put it up, it'd fall off the other side. It was so funny. And then we get up there and he's already pissed at me because he's like, this is in the woods. It's 100 and whatever steps. He's sweating. It's in the middle of nowhere. And he walks up and he's allergic to cats. And he looks down, he sees a cat and he goes, great. And there's fucking cats. And I was like, okay. He goes, how long are we here? I'm like a weekish. And he was like, okay. And so I could see in his face that this wasn't going well because he doesn't like the unknown. I was thinking how I was going to tell the owner that I needed to leave early. I had all these things playing in my head because I'm not going to put him somewhere he hates. And we go out to dinner. It was like mediocre. They have one wine in the country.
Oh,
it's like the wine is like, this is old Yugoslavia, right? So the wine is made by the government. It's like there's one brand.
It's government wine. That doesn't sound sexy
wine
at all.
It wasn't delicious. And so he was like, this is going to be so fun. And so we went back up to the house, went to bed. He's sneezing because the cat. And he wakes up way earlier than he should have because he's pissed, right? He goes upstairs and he says, I'm going to do a meditation. He goes up on the top deck of the yoga studio and he does this meditation, like 30 minutes. He opens his eyes and he sees this grand view. And he came downstairs and I was terrified that he was going to be like, we're leaving. He said, this is unbelievable. How did you know that this is what I needed? And I was like, I'm your wife. Like, I was like, thank God. We had a life-changing experience there. I'm not going to lie, by like day 20, he kept asking me, so how many more days? How many more days? And I kept saying a few. And finally he was like, I need to know specifically what is our checkout date. And I was like, okay. And I told him, and he was like, we did 22 days here. I'm like, yeah. And so, but he looks back on it now and he's like, that was the most life-changing experience ever. He actually made friends with the cat. Like, all kinds of things happened there because he was taken off the grid, away from the world, and he could redesign what he wanted his life to look like and reimagine. And if you go on our Friday podcast, there's an episode on Montenegro, and it's the funniest episode we've ever had because
I have to listen.
He reiterates what we're going through. And so there's a few of them, but at the end of the day, this is how, like, the other thing that, the other little mantra we have is, what if this works out better than I thought? And once you start building references for, I thought I was going to hate this, then I got there and I really thought I was going to hate this, but then it ended up changing my life. Then you begin to welcome the unknown. So now he's a different guy traveling now. He's a different guy. So moving to Italy for him now is like, he's not scared. Because
it's like, because you build that muscle. Before I had that muscle built as a fellow Virgo, and an Enneagram 6, which is a fucking wild combo. But before I had that muscle, I had to look to other people, mentors, coaches, friends who I trusted, who had those situations.
Yeah, you have to build belief. So you have to start small. And start small on these things to be able to do that. But for us, it's like balancing what I know his strengths and weaknesses are and where he falls short and vice versa, and him for me. Balancing those things and pushing each other is really what makes this work, and not faulting each other. Like, he's been so sad about leaving. He's like, I surfed for the last time. His bike, oh my God, he built this beautiful bike. He thought he was taking it to Italy. We found out it was going to be a motorcycle. It's too fast for Italian regulations. So he would have to take a motorcycle license test in Italian. So he was like, oh, this is not happening. He was devastated to sell this bike when it went away. So he's been very emotional, very kind of snippy at times. And he said to me, he's like, thank you so much for giving me the space to be able to do this and to feel these emotions without jumping down my throat and being like, why are you doing this? And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they make their spouse wrong, or they take their mindset and they make it their spouse's. So that you're a Virgo and an Enneagram 6, and that's one way of looking at the world, right? That's not how I look at the world. That's not how this one looks at the world. So when you put your own filter on other people and make them wrong for the way they do something, that's not going to work out. So, and whether it's a business relationship or a marriage, or even with your children, none of that works out, So you have to be able to honor that person's thing and know where you can pull and push to help their growth. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How are you managing both of you running a business when you guys travel like you do? I mean, I love watching your Instagram stories, which I almost watch no one's unless they're my clients. I love Sophia, her daughter. I'm like, I hate cooking, but when you cook, I'm like, I want it. It's weird.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to make sourdough now, which of course is never going to happen. But I mean, I'm like, I want to do that. You make it look like so effortless and fun. And I was like, I could be Kim. I could do that. And I'm like, okay, that's not happening.
Listen, nothing's effortless.
How do you guys manage? The question I always have when I watch your stuff is, how do you manage your business? Because even though you have that financial foundation of network marketing, you still have to run that business.
Yeah.
So how do you run that while you're on planes, trains, automobiles, and shoddy Wi-Fi, having sleep deprivation, time zone differences? How do you do this?
Well, the blessing of that specific business with network marketing is that I can literally do it from my phone. And we have a great app that kind of is like having a personal assistant. It's like got a little artificial intelligence to it. It tells me what to do each day. So if worst case scenario, if I just do what the app tells me to do, I created momentum in my business. And outside of that, because I have a team of almost 10,000 and, that's a lot. I have great team leaders. I have great co-leaders in the team. And when I'm like right now in this 2-week period, they're helping and they're assisting. And the other thing is like having that kind of life. That's why we did this. Like, I'm not doing this to work all the time. I'm doing this so I can work when I want to. And there are vacations I go on that I don't work. And I'm very honest about it. I'm like, I will check in with my team and make sure everybody is handled, but I'm not necessarily doing the daily grind when I'm in Mykonos for a month. I'm doing this work so I can go to Mykonos for a month. You know what I mean? So there's pockets there, but we have other businesses too. And so every business is different. So Rob has all of his things. I'm the strategy behind it, that he creates these trips and then he hands it to me and I tell him why certain things aren't going to work out, whether it's financial or whether it's just time. That's the timing of things. It's not going to work. And so we have a lot of businesses. We have recording of our podcast. We have all of that. We just make it work. Like, we're not lazy people. We just make it work. There are days that are a lot. And we sit down at the end of the day and a glass of wine, we look at each other and go, what the fuck just happened? Like, that was a day. And then there are other days that I shut my phone off and I take my kid and we go somewhere. And it just depends on the day. So I don't have a schedule highlighted out, and the worst thing you could do to an Aquarius is give me a checklist or try to schedule me. Like Rob back in the day in our Jet Set Life days, he'd say, I need a blog post from you on Monday. I'm like, what if I don't feel inspired to write by Monday? Like, because we work different. He's like, but just, you need it Monday. I'm like, I don't have anything to say. I just do things that need to be done. It's triage most of the time. It's like, what's the priority today? I'm a scheduler as far as the blocks.
Me too.
Like, I had you in at 12:30, record the podcast. I have this at 1. I have like whatever the things are. So I'll schedule the big blocks and then I triage around it.
On the days that, because we all have them, where you just don't feel like it, but you have a stack that you have to do. It's not it's not one of those to-do lists where it's like a maybe. It's like you have to do it and there's nothing left in the tank. Maybe you're PMSing, maybe Sophia was up all night. You just really don't feel like it. What do you do to get yourself to do the damn thing?
It depends what it is, because maybe this is why I'm moving to Italy, because in Italy, you commonly hear the word domani, which means tomorrow. And there are times where there's something that needs to be done. And I'm like, nope, not doing it. And if it's something that requires my mental bandwidth, and I know if I tackle that today, it's going to be shitty, I will push it off to the next day. If it's something I can't, and I'm overwhelmed and I'm stressed, but this shit's got to get done, I usually say, Rob, I need an hour and I'm going for a walk. And I go for a walk and I play usually Abraham Hicks or some version
Not landslide.
I play some version of Abraham Hicks with something that's going to trigger me mentally, spiritually, to think a little bit different, pull me out of whatever I'm stressed about. And then when I come back, I'm better for it. And when Rob sees it in me, there are days where he'll see me and he's like, I want you to stop what you're doing and go for a walk. And he knows what that means for me. And he said, you always come back better. Or meditation, so whether it's a walk or meditation, depends on the level of stress, I guess, and what needs to be done, but I'll do that and then come back and tackle the project, whatever it is. But I'm not going to lie. There are days I'm like, sorry, it's going to be late. I don't know what to tell you.
And because you're someone who does get things done, because that could be a slippery slope for some of you guys listening, who are extreme procrastinators, or saying tomorrow could be the sneaky way of self-sabotage of not showing up. So how can you determine the difference, whether it's in you or someone on your team, whether they're saying tomorrow out of self-honoring, self-care, or if it's out of self-sabotage?
Yeah. Um, I'm not a procrastinator by nature. I really am not. And so when I say I need a minute, yeah, I know, and Rob knows, I'm very in tune with that. But I think the biggest thing is one, identifying that you are a procrastinator and owning it and saying, I am a procrastinator. I do this. And then when you catch yourself triggered with something that you're wanting to push off, you got to remind yourself, you got to get back in the game, right? Or you can phone a friend, phone a friend. I'm procrastinating this. Tell me why I need to do it. Personally, I'm not a procrastinator. I'm like the opposite, where I over promise and add too many things to my plate. And then I don't get it done. And then I'm pissed at myself. I have the opposite problem. And like Rob, because he's so checklisted, if he gives me things to do, I'm like, now I just tell him I may not get to that for 3 days. I want you to know. And then he'll follow up with me 100 times, which drives me bonkers sometimes.
Very Virgo, like.
He's like, did you get this done yet? Did you get this done? And so I've learned, again, triage with that. But if you're a procrastinator, I think the first thing is identifying you're a procrastinator and knowing your weaknesses and knowing your strengths. See, this is why I go back to Strength Finder, because you can be a procrastinator, but maybe your number one is strategy. Well, maybe you're procrastinating because you haven't figured out a strategy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so there are strengths that are within everyone that can, like in my network marketing team, my two best friends, one is woo, and the other one is the kumbaya one, the one that I have the last on the list. It's like cohesiveness, right? It's like and Rob's actually really high on that. He hates when there's like tension, in something, whereas I don't care. He hates it. I don't care. So the three of us, it's like me and my two best friends, who all of us lead the team. It's like, I'm strategy, this one's woo, and that one is kumbaya. Together, we make a great freaking team. But if we didn't know this, then my strategy, I've learned, here's something I've learned. Okay. So if someone has a strategy brain like me, when someone comes to you with a problem, I don't do that well. Okay. So if someone wants to vent, I fix things because I see strategy. And so now I've learned, because I've had a lot of self work, that I have to look and say, Tiffany, do you want me to just listen, or would you like me to help you with that problem?
I love your face when you're saying this. Like, this is not natural for you at all.
It is not natural, but it's it's how I have maintained friendships in a marriage, because I will literally start just strategizing something. So again, it's like, it all goes back to Strength Finder. And so if you are someone that's a procrastinator, well, let's look at your top 5 to 10 strengths and figure out which one of those could you use to stop procrastinating, because you're procrastinating for a reason. You're not procrastinating because you're a procrastinator, like natural. Okay, fine. But why? And what could you do that would change that and shift that? Like, what thing could you do? And sometimes it just takes identifying your strengths. Like, I'm also an ideator, and this is another one. Oh God, I feel bad for people when I do it, but I'll sit there and talk to someone and I see 900 things that they could do. And I'm like, idea person. They don't want my ideas. Like, I'm just like, what if you did? What if you did? What if you did? What if you did? And like, I love to ideate. And so I've learned to pull back a little bit, and I have an idea. Would you like it? That's the negative of that, because not everybody wants your idea, but it's like, I almost can't control it. It's in me and like wants to come out, but you got to kind of use your strengths for those things. So for me, when I'm going into, again, that's why when you asked me, what is my fear with all of this packing and the life change, because strategy is so high for me, it took the fear away because I have a strategy for it. And that's where I'm comfortable. You want me uncomfortable? Give me something without strategy. And so because I have ideation and strategy in my top 2, basically, you give me a problem, I'm going to come up with an idea and a strategy to get out of it. It might not be perfect and it might not work, but it's going to take the fear away because I now have a strategy. I now have an idea. That's where I think people can tap into their strengths to overcome some of these obstacles. And that to me is what personal development really is. What are you strong at? What are you weak at? The things that are so low on your strength finder list, the things you're so weak at, why are you going to put so much energy into changing that? Like, I am never going to give a shit if my group of 30 friends is all going to get along. I'm not their babysitter. That's how I look at it. I'm like, you're all adults, figure it out. Like,
right. It's same with business. If you have an employee, if someone on the weak people on your team, because there's weak people in, I don't care what industry and what company, there's always a weaker one. Who do you pour into?
Right.
It's wild and crazy to pour. It makes no sense to pour into the weak ones.
Well, no, but then you take the weak one and you give them the strength finder and you figure out what their strength is, because maybe you put them in a position that they're weak, right?
Fair.
Like it's so true. Like whenever my company calls me to do a company training, like I just did a huge company training for our collagen elixir product for a big event we did. And they said, what would you love to train on with collagen? I am not my friend that does woo. She can do all the connecting, how to connect with people on it and stuff like that. That's her lane. I'm like, let me show you the strategy I use to enroll people and how I make this seamless and duplicatable. That's my strength. And so knowing that helps you identify what your lane is. And so when we would hire people in our clinic, we would give them a strength finder, because if somebody, who do you want at the front desk? Do you want
the people person?
You want the people person, not the pencil pusher, right? Like you don't want that. And how many times have you walked into an office where the wrong person is doing the wrong job, right? So instead of spending 10 years trying to figure this person out, we just gave them a strength finder. We'd figure out, like, if you're going to hire an accountant, you want them to be, good with numbers and details, and there are strengths for that. And so it's crazy. One of our friends, actually our best friends, Darren and Tony, we travel with them all the time, have for like 15 years. They have a huge company startup, and that's incredible. And they do these types of strength finder and different tests to hire someone for the correct position. Like, you're not going to hire someone who has woo, winning others over. You want a sales job? They're probably going to have a pretty strong woo score. You're not going to want someone like me going out and doing door-to-door sales, because I'm so analytical and strategic. Okay, that's why I'm good in business. So I can strategically build a business, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things, and I'm not your girl for that, So for me, I think when you find those weak people, you can take those weak people and give them something like a strength finder test, see what they're actually strong at, shift them around in your organization, and now they're the strong one. So for me, I don't think there's weak people. I think there are weak strengths, and they're just in the wrong position, right?
Interesting. I get what you're saying. I do think there's people who also just don't fit with an organization.
Oh, absolutely. Well. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I fire one person a year at least.
Right. And all the time, because mostly you end up firing them because it's not a fit for them. It comes back to what you said earlier. It's like, what's your vision for what you want? And are you doing the actions to get there? Well, if your vision is to keep working in here, but you're not doing the actions to keep doing that, that's not going to work out.
Right. Like if you're using the excuse that Mercury's in retrograde and that's why you didn't show up for work, Tiffany's going to fire you.
I saw a really good meme the other day. I was like, I wish someone would do what I do to my daughter and walk behind me and go, she's just hungry. Mercury's in retrograde. She's just hungry, because there are days where I really need that, because that's what I do. When you have I had Sophia's 6, and every day I'm like, is there a full moon? Okay. Is Mercury in retrograde? Is she hangry? Let me go down that checklist first before I actually call it what it is, which is she's 6.
So for people who are really intrigued by this whole financial foundation thing that you teach, and I know you don't just take anyone in your network marketing team, you're really particular, because like what you said, the whole strength finder, you know exactly who's going to be successful in working with you. And it sets you both up for success.
Yes.
What is the best way for them to reach out to you if they're just intrigued, they want to know more, they want to see if it's a good fit?
Yeah, they can just reach out to me on Instagram, because I really like to have a conversation with people and see if what I do is a good fit for them and their goal. And also if I am a good mentor for them, because I am not everybody's cup of tea, and people might want things differently. And I have no problem finding them a leader that would be more suitable for them as well. So I want to make sure it's a good fit. So on Instagram, Kim Murgatroyd, hopefully we'll link it in the show notes.
No, it'll be linked. You guys can.
No one knows how to spell that.
Right. I mean, I wrote it down to make sure I could spell it, but
I know.
Here's what I want you guys to do. Besides the fact you need to swipe up and listen to the part 1 of this with Rob, but I want you to take a screenshot right now, share this episode in your Instagram or Facebook stories, tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany. You can also tag Kim at Kim Murgatroyd. Now, realistically, you might not be able to spell that and you're multitasking. So as long as you tag me, I'll see it and then I'll reshare it and tag her. But let us know that this is how we know you loved the episode. It's also going to put you on Kim's radar as well. And I really want you guys, I encourage you to follow along with their journey in Kim's Instagram stories. They're now doing a whole series on YouTube, and that's linked in the show notes as well. Even if you have no desire to do something as dramatic as moving your family, from California to Europe, but you have something else you want to do. Maybe you want a lake house. Maybe you want to start a company. Maybe you want to have a 3rd child, whatever it is. This is going to be evidence for your evidence bank that you can make this happen. You can't use the mom excuse. I hear a lot of mom excuses where it's like, well, I can't do that. My children are young. And then I can't do that. We don't have the money. I can't do that. I don't have the time. I can't do that. I'm so well established here or whatever. Listen, you can do anything you want to do. There's always a way. And I want you to see real evidence of that way. And you're going to see it continuously, because I know you guys are going to share your whole journey on Instagram and YouTube, right?
Absolutely. Yep. We're going to be doing a new series, going back to our Jet Set Life roots and filming a YouTube series. And we're really excited about that, because it's really just a passion project. And it's nice to be able to go back into something that I'm passionate about, that I'm not like trying to figure out funnels for.
Right. Like, how am I going to convert this into cash?
See,
right?
and that's the best part, because it's like, we don't have to have the conversation of monetizing, because we already set up multiple streams of income that are going to do that for us. And so now we can tap into, for the love of it, for real, and see what happens. So follow along.
Thank you so much for coming on. You're during this time where I know every minute of your time is scheduled and blocked, as you say. So I appreciate you put us in your schedule. Absolutely. And I'm so excited to follow along. You're moving to, oh no, Tiffany's going to cry. I cried on the episode with Rob too. You're moving to a place that is very dear to my heart. It was my father's favorite place in the world.
Oh, I just got chills.
So it really is special to me that what you guys are doing. And I'll be following along and supporting you in any way I can.
Well, hopefully you'll be sipping a cappuccino right beside us at some point when you come and visit, because
without a doubt,
we would love to experience this with you. And your father's memory will be held there. So, and we will be more than willing to welcome you anytime with open arms and a lot of pasta.
Oh, I'm here for it. I'll be there. I've been there many times. I've already know I'm coming. All right. Awesome. Bye, love. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.